Dan, I'm an abuse survivor. Okay. I survived sexual abuse in my life. Okay. And for the last 2 years, you know what's happened? My sexual abuse has showed up again. Why? Because the same tactics that my abuser used against me is the exact same tactics that the government is using to get us to do what they wanted. Do what they want us to do.
Right.
And I made a promise long time ago. If I saw abuse, I was going to call it out. And that's why my voice is in the fight.
This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth, and we got a great show lined up for you today, my friends. So let's just jump right into it. Joining me on the line right now is two-time Olympic gold medalist and former NHL star Theo Fleury. Theo, thank you so much for joining us here today to speak with us on Press for Truth on this Saturday, January 29th. Now, I know you have been rather outspoken critic about the government's overreaction to the COVID-1984 nightmare and its mandates. So perhaps we can get into that a little bit. But before we do, today is perhaps one of the biggest days in the history of Canadian protests, as thousands of truckers and supporters are now descending onto Parliament Hill in Ottawa as we speak. So what was your first initial reaction when you first heard about this great Canadian trucking convoy? How did you first react when you first heard that this was happening?
Well, obviously I was pumped, right? Because we needed somebody from a grassroots perspective to stand up and say, you know what, no, we're done, right? And there's no better group. And I think they could have a bigger impact, on supply chains and all that stuff than the truckers. And, watching this happen this week has probably been the greatest thing that I've ever seen in my life. And, I played in 2 Olympic games and won a Stanley Cup and all that, but this is 100x times anything that we've seen. Our kids, our children, our grandchildren are part of history. This is history. And we will be talking about this, for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're at that kind of a fork in the road sort of moment where people will look back on this time as who was on the side of freedom and liberty and who was on the side of authoritarianism and all out control. So, it's tough to say where this is going to go in the coming days and weeks. But what sort of things would you like to see come out of this? I mean, as I said, we don't have
it doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter anymore. The bottom line is this is about freedom. That's it. It's not about all the other bullshit. It's not about Justin Trudeau. It's just the country's fed up. Okay. And for 2 years, we've been in a mass formation psychosis. And, I work in the field of trauma, mental health, and addiction. And, I've been absolutely bombarded with people reaching out, looking for help, looking for answers, looking for places to go, et cetera, et cetera. And the real pandemic is not COVID-19. It's actually the mental health of the whole entire planet, right? Because they say if you think about the past, that's depression. You think about the future, that's anxiety. Well, we've been living in the highest state of anxiety, and the vibration on the earth is because we don't know what the future looks like. And when you don't know what the future looks like, there's a lot of fear. And with the fear comes anxiety, right? And so what's happened is, and I compare it to, a big sporting event that happens in Canada, whether it's our soccer team, our hockey teams, whatever it is, the Olympics, right? Where everybody pulls out their Team Canada jersey, they grab their flag, and they sit in front of their TV, or they go to the event themselves and they live and die with us for 2 weeks. Okay. So for the last 2 years, there's been no hope. There's been no excitement. There's been nothing. Right. And so these truckers decided to get in their trucks and start driving across Canada. And what happened? Those people who were depressed, anxious, afraid, guess what they did? They got their red and white jackets, jerseys, coats, grabbed their flag, made a sign, and came out of their house. Mm-hmm. And to me, that is power. That is incredible power. And what we're seeing is a movement or a revolution or whatever you want to call it, like nothing we have ever seen in this country before. Because, and I said it on Laura Ingram the other night, Canadians have a really, really, really long fuse. Okay. And when that fuse burns out, it's over. Yeah. And that's exactly what's happened.
So you think the trucker convoy has the ability to possibly undo some of the mass formation psychosis that's been going on over the past?
They already have. Mm-hmm. They crushed the narrative. The narrative is gone. The narrative is gone. That vaccines work and you need to get vaccinated and we need to lock you down. Like, that's all gone. It's gone. It's gone. And because Trudeau positioned himself as this being an us against him, it's not about him. It's not about him. And him hiding, he thinks it's about him. Like, he's that fucking stupid that he thinks it's about him. It's not. It's not about him. This is about freedom. This is about freedom. This is about bringing awareness to the government, the uniparty, Liberals, Conservatives, NDP, Bloc, Greens. You said that this is you guys against us. Well, we've had enough. We've had enough. Who pays your salary? Who pays your salary? And you are not acting in that way. So we're done. We're done. The narrative's done. Lockdowns are done. Whatever. It's done. Finished. It's over. And the amount of people, the amount of social media that is going on right now, it's epic. It's epic. We will never see another thing like this in our lifetime. Guaranteed.
Well, Canadians are absolutely upset, and rightly so, because of the restrictions and the mandates being put down on us. And now the government and the mainstream media outlets are trying to paint a picture that there's some sort of fringe element. There's some sort of violent or dangerous potential bad actors who may present themselves in Parliament Hill in Ottawa. We're already seeing the media focus on this guy with the Confederate flag. There's hundreds of Canadian flags there, hundreds of Quebec flags, and one guy, and of course the mainstream media is all over that. What do you think the likelihood is that the state may even put in agent provocateurs or try to disrupt this protest? To delegitimize a legitimate peaceful protest? Do you think it's possible they could go to the extent of trying to discredit this thing?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I was just watching CBC before I came on with you. What an absolute disgrace. Disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. And,
what's happening
and they're not trying. We know that they're going to be there. The truckers know that they're going to be there. The families who traveled all over Canada to get there, they know. They have a great plan in place. And and we know that these guys are paid actors by the uniparty of Canada. Like it's not a secret, right? It's not a secret. So the guy with the Confederation flag, I believe, is probably one of those paid actors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this whole thing started with
because you're absolutely the dumbest person on the planet if you bring that flag to a Canadian rally. That flag has absolutely nothing to do with Canada. Nothing. So you're a paid shit disturber, and it's time for you to go home. Or maybe we'll tap a police officer on the shoulder and say, hey, we don't want that thing here. Has nothing to do with us. Has absolutely nothing to do with us. So,
Well,
and the media is just sick. Like, they are just the sickest, most disgraceful human beings ever. Like, disgusting. Like, puke, disgusting. It's a fucking embarrassment. It is an embarrassment to our country.
Now, people are obviously fighting the mandate to vaccinate truckers who are crossing the border, which may affect supply chains, but this has kind of morphed into some bigger issues that Canadians are dealing with. A lot of people are losing their jobs. It seems that a depression and alcoholism is on the rise. The economy is being destroyed, and this has nothing to do with COVID-19. It has everything to do with the government. So what are some of the things that you've seen that stand out to you as overreactions by the government or mandates that just take things too far?
Every last one of them, right? As a citizen of Canada, you have 3 duties to your country: pay your taxes, vote, stay out of jail. Other than that, I don't need the government whatsoever. I don't need the government at all meddling in my life. I am very capable of looking after myself. I also have raised millions of dollars in charity to help people who are at a disadvantage. And I know that the majority of Canadians do that on, a yearly basis. So we don't need more government. We need less government. And, this is the most corrupt government that has ever been in place in Canada. And when you have corruption, what do you have? Chaos, and more chaos, right? It's premeditated. That's the scary part. That's the sick part. That these sick and deranged politicians have premeditated this. And when did human lives stop mattering? When did your life stop mattering? When did mine stop mattering? Right? That's sick. That's sick, demented, and really twisted.
Well, order out of chaos has always been their modus operandi. So what do you think this order might look like? Is it the Great Reset that they're talking about? Is it, a unified global one world government? Is it a global digitalized currency? What do you see as the end game agenda here?
Oh boy. Okay, so the richest people in the world fly to Davos every year, right? Why? Because they're bored, right? They're bored. They're all rich beyond their wildest dreams, and they're bored. So they said, wow, why don't we just put a plan together to take over the world, right? And this is what's happening, right? This is what's happening. And they thought Canada was an easy target. They thought Canada was an easy target because they thought we were, nice, complacent, we would comply, all those things. But, they forgot about the truckers. And I think they grossly underestimated the character in Canada, right? And this is all about getting back to our identity. This is all about getting back to our identity, which is Canada is full of patriots, full of freedom lovers, freedom of choice, freedom of speech, and accountability, right? This is about accountability. What's happening in Ottawa today is nothing like, yeah, there's certain things that we would like to achieve, but this is about accountability. This is about a government that's gone rogue, and the people are there for accountability and freedom. And if we talk about anything other than that, we're making a big mistake, right? Because with accountability, we're going to get back all the things that we want, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's about accountability. It's about freedom, right? So,
yeah. Well, this obviously begs the question: who needs to be held accountable? I mean, is it the civil servants within the government who are just?
It's everybody. Everybody who's involved in government
mm-hmm.
needs to be held to account, and that's exactly why everybody who can be there is there. That's why there's guys like me, hundreds of thousands of people that are going to spend their whole entire day on their phones. Why? Because we're the mainstream media today. We are the mainstream media because we have this device. Mm-hmm. And we'll be retweeting I have people on the ground in Ottawa that are going to be sending me shit all day long, and I'm going to pump it out. And I've told all my followers to do the exact same thing, and we're going to get the real story out.
Now,
the real story.
Do you fear any kind of backlash? I mean, there's a lot.
None. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid anymore. I'm not afraid anymore.
Yeah.
They want me dead. They want me dead. They want me extinguished from the planet. So I'm not afraid.
Because there's people who might be in a similar position as you who would just kind of shy away from going public about it because they don't want to tarnish their legacy.
Dan, I'm an abuse survivor. Okay, I survived sexual abuse in my life. Okay, and for the last 2 years, you know what's happened? My sexual abuse has showed up again. Why? Because the same tactics that my abuser used against me is the exact same tactics that the government is using to get us to do what they want to do what they want us to do.
Right.
Right. And I made a promise long time ago. If I saw abuse, I was going to call it out. And that's why my voice is in the fight.
Wow. So you're seeing coercion and manipulation similar to what you've experienced before.
It's exactly the same. It's exactly the same. And do you know how many people are feeling the exact same way that I'm feeling? People who've been emotionally, physically, sexually, spiritually abused. Like my phone is full all day long, every day of people saying, I can't handle this. This is crazy. I feel like I'm being abused again, all that stuff, right? So why do you think the mental health has spiked the way has spiked? It's because our government is abusing us on purpose.
Yeah, shockingly, I actually know more people who have committed suicide over the last couple of years than I do who have been negatively affected by COVID-19. And that really says a lot. When those are the real statistics, because we have to go by what we experience in real life. If I was seeing my friends and family dropping dead left, right, and center, it would be a different story, right?
Right.
But this seems to be a virus with a 99.997% recovery rate, basically comparable to the flu. So, they've managed to use this to turn it into a fear state, really. Would you agree? It's really fear that's controlling.
Well, and how do you get people to comply? Fear. Yeah. And what have we seen in the media? 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, fear.
Yeah.
Because they know that the majority of the planet is traumatized, right?
Yeah.
And the fear feels comfortable to an abuse survivor, right? Kind of like Stockholm Syndrome.
Right.
Right? So that keeps people in that place where they're not going to speak out because they're afraid. Well, I'm on the other end. I've done my work. I've done my healing, and through the pandemic, I have a really good toolbox full of tools that I can use to help with depression and anxiety and suicidal ideation and all this other stuff. Right. So I have great friends. I have great people in my life that I can pick up the phone and call, at 5 o'clock in the morning. Hey, I can't sleep, I'm having nightmares and flashbacks and all that. So, and this this is like the other side of the pandemic that nobody knows about, the really, really dark, dark side of the pandemic.
Right.
Right. And like I said, this is premeditated and pre-planned because they knew exactly what they were doing.
And then there's the people who take the Stockholm Syndrome too far, and they really identify with their captors, and they've gone full-blown, 2 masks, visor,
Yep.
dousing themselves in alcohol, glued to the television set. Are those people too far gone? Are they just wounded soldiers in the information war who are too far gone? Or are they helpable? Is it still possible to turn even them around?
Everybody can get well, right? Mm-hmm. And like I said, I think the truckers, doing what they've done has really, given people hope, right? Mm-hmm. And for any kind of abuse survivor, that's all we need is hope, right? We need hope. And, courage is contagious, right? Courage is contagious. And what we're seeing is that exactly playing out in real time, right? People, like I said, it's over, right? And even if we don't even if we don't get what we want, we don't have to comply anymore. And collectively, 37 million people, if we stop complying, it's over, right? And how long is that gonna take? Well, we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out in the next week what our next move is, right? Like, if they say no, that's not our last move, right? It's not our last move. We've ignited the country. The truckers are the official opposition party in Canada right now. The truckers are, right? Mm-hmm. So now we know, as advocates and activists and supporters of this movement, that it's just going to grow because we've woken the country up, right? We've woken the country up, and we're all aware of what exactly has happened over the last 2 years. And the truth is going to become more and more and more and more and more, right? Mm-hmm. And we're already seeing it in the United States, where these doctors, these virologists, these experts are sitting on panels in the US government and actually telling us the truth, right? And anybody who has a phone, eventually you're going to see one of those testimonies. You're going to watch Joe Rogan. You're going to see Dr. McCullough more. You're going to see Dr. Malone more. And that's what's happening. People are like, oh, wow, really? My government hates my guts? And they want to control every aspect of our lives, right? And all of a sudden, 150 years of democracy and freedom in Canada doesn't work anymore? It doesn't work? All of a sudden, it doesn't work anymore? Yeah. So it's just crazy. It's crazy. And And for those of us who are really, really, really awake and know abuse, we know exactly what's going on.
Did you see this right from the beginning, or did you kind of start figuring out?
When it got to be 6 weeks to flatten the curve, mm-hmm. That's when I knew we were in big trouble. Yeah, big trouble. Yeah, and I also know that you don't eliminate a virus by vaccinating your way out. Yeah, and I don't know, is there 10,000 viruses floating around in the air all day, every day? And they picked one? They picked one virus? And they rebranded the flu? Like it's give them credit. It's marketing genius. It's marketing genius.
It is
what happened.
Yeah, right? Perhaps one of the genius moves they did too was ramping up the testing. you know, and
Of
running
course,
these
the
PCR
tests,
tests.
yeah, the tests don't work.
No,
Right?
the PCR tests are running at such high cycles, they'll find a little coronavirus in just about everybody, you know.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Yeah. So,
so
and
the
like,
faulty testing is just ramping up
and
that fear state.
yeah, and all of that is now coming up, right? That is all coming up, right?
Hmm.
Because for the most part, you know, we should trust our leaders, right? We should trust our leaders that they have the best interest of, you know, our well-being, you know, all that stuff. But every once in a while, you know, you get a group of people who are really, really sick, and they sort of have a God complex. And, you know, because, you know, this has been tried, this ideology has been tried 24 times in the history of our planet. And 24 times, guess what's happened? It's failed. And what's the byproduct? What's the byproduct of this ideology? Death.
Hmm.
That's the only thing that comes out of this ideology. And what are we seeing? Mass death.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Wow, man. It's pretty remarkable that we've gotten here so quickly, because that's probably the part of this is the most.
But we
shocking
haven't, though. They've been planning this for 20 years or
Yeah.
maybe longer.
Right.
Right. So, and I think people need to lower their expectations as the outcome, because just because, you know, we have, you know, maybe 1 million people that are going to show up today, that they're just going to surrender.
Hmm.
They're not, right?
Yeah.
These guys are, like I said, they've planned this for a long time. They've probably put $2 trillion into their plan, and they're not going to abandon it now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I see happening is the biggest game of 5D chess, you know, because and as long as our side is calm, cool, collected,
Yes.
we'll eventually get to the place we need to get to.
Well, do you think our side is actually fringe, like they want people to believe, just a small percentage, or do you think that there's actually more Canadians out there who are in favor of this and who don't want the restrictions and the mandates more so than the mainstream media will have us believe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So gaslighting and buzzwords are already out of style, right? Because I get them all day long on social media, right? People gaslighting me, people using the buzzwords, racist, misogynist, white supremacist, right? Those words don't work anymore. They go right over my head, bounce back off the wall, and point towards them. And what's interesting is whatever they're accusing us of, they're guilty of themselves. It's called projection. It's called projection, right? And anybody who knows anything about psychology, that's what it is, right? So people have stopped listening to the noise, which is CBC, CTV, Global, CNN, MSNBC. They've tuned them out, right? Nobody watches CBC anymore. Nobody watches CTV anymore, and certainly nobody watches local news anymore, ever. We get all of our news right here, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And people who have big followings, I don't need to watch the TV. I have my own TV station, newspaper, radio station right here, because I have people that follow me. And if I want to get information out, I get it out there.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we are at an age now where we do have the power right within, as you said, within our very own fingertips here. What used to take millions of dollars, satellite dishes, you know, editing vans, we can now do relatively cost efficiently. I mean, it's free to set up a website. It's free to, you know, you got a phone in your pocket all the time. It's essentially no excuse at this stage in the game to be able to get involved in this. So what other
like things, the truckers dragged us into the fight.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
but I use the word fight very loosely and, not literally, more figuratively, right?
Sure.
Because we're trying to keep the tone down,
Yes.
right? And all you got to do is watch a video of the truckers going through certain stops, and strangers are getting out of their cars, hugging other people, smiling, laughing. There's no violence in that. That is patriotism at its core. And people just want to get back to the way that we used to be. Hardworking, responsible, raising our families with good values, good morals. We have the worst example for that. Who's the leader of our country? Like the worst example ever. And he just keeps doubling down. Like, if you can't see it, I hope that you do, right? It's important that you maybe take a deeper look at what's really going on, right? And take it from me. The guy who's been abused. This is abuse.
Yeah.
The highest levels, and it's 24/7. 24/7.
And for people who recognize this, we need to start figuring out exactly how to deal with these things. So solution-wise, what would you say moving forward is some of the things people need to be focusing on? Something I often tell my audience is that getting out of debt is absolutely crucial. Not being reliant on the banks, not being reliant on the government, or even the grocery stores for that matter, by eventually setting up a self-sustainable garden so that you can
there's lots
outside of the government.
There's lots of things you can do, but we have to get back to community. We've lost community, right? Yeah. But it's been premeditated, right? They've closed the arenas. Church, you can't go to churches. You can't go to dance class. You can't, all that stuff, right? Because they don't want us talking. They don't want us talking like you and I are talking. They don't want it.
What do you think's the one thing they fear the most? Is it that community and those self-sustainable, self-sufficient people in society?
Yeah, they don't want their plan exposed. They kind of do, but they kind of not want, right? It's that psychological game that they like to play, right? They give it and then they take it away. They give it, which is what my abuser did to me. Exactly the same. If you don't do this, I'm going to take this away. Or if you don't do this, I'm going to, you know what I mean? So it keeps that fear, or in my case, terror, in place, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that abuser-abused relationship is a really fantastic analogy to describe what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, and throughout the whole pandemic, I'm the only guy that's talking about this. Because like I said, I'm not afraid anymore. I'm not afraid, right? Yeah. I've been abused once and it almost ended my life. And I want to live, right? I want to live. I want to be able to travel. I want to be able to, do whatever I want.
Yeah. I never thought I would be to the point where I'd feel like a prisoner in my own country. I literally can't get on an airplane right now. I can't even cross the land border. If I want to get on an airplane somewhere in the US, because I'm unvaccinated, I'm essentially a prisoner in my own country right now. As a patriotic Canadian, did you ever think we'd be at this point?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, when you sort of live in the abuse world for the majority of your life, you sort of get a feeling, kind of a perspective that something's not right here. Something just doesn't feel right, and it's
because you've seen it before.
Yeah.
Right? You recognize it for what it is. Yeah.
And, being a guy who has discovered spirituality and faith, the Bible talked about this moment, right? The last battle of good versus evil, right? And this is it. We're here, right? We're at war, but it's a different kind of war. right? It's a psychological war, right?
I agree.
And so what we really need is we need a spiritual awakening. And guess what's happened this last week? We've had a spiritual awakening, right? God is working his magic right now, right? And when you see people who've been told that if I hug you, I could die. If I hug grandma, I could die, or she could die. If I hug grandpa, if I'm around grandpa, he might die, right? So think about how sick that is, right?
Yeah.
But
True.
But now the narrative is over. People are hugging each other. People are taking their masks off. I saw a couple days ago that restaurants are starting to lift all of their mandates, inviting people back into their businesses. So, and all it takes is a couple of, really courageous people to do that. And then what are they going to do? Arrest 37 million people? No, they're not.
Yeah.
And eventually all those police officers and military people that the government is using to implement, eventually they're going to go, you know what? We can't stop this wave. We better join it before it's too late, right?
We're already seeing that with some people within the RCMP,
Trudeau's security guard guys speaking at the rally today. What does that tell you?
Yeah.
What does that tell you?
Yeah.
Like, Trudeau is a bad guy, period. He is a bad guy with bad ideologies, bad chemistry. He's just bad dude. And if you can't see it, God have mercy on your soul, right?
Yeah, I mean, he clearly ducked out this weekend, just completely.
Yeah, but it's all part of his game.
Yeah.
Because he's a narcissist. And what do narcissists think? That it's all about them.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right. Yeah.
So that's why he went into hiding, because he thinks it's about him. He's that delusional. Right? He's a crazy person. He needs help. From a compassionate perspective, just go get help. You shouldn't be running a country. Go get help. And hey, call me. I'll help you. I've been there. I'm a recovering narcissist myself because of my own abuse. I was manipulated by a narcissist. Right? So, but it's interesting that, and I appreciate you, Dan, because, the people aren't getting this perspective, right?
Right.
The deep thinkers, have all been censored and silenced, right? And so, that's why I do 5-10 different podcasts every week, is because it gives me an opportunity to bring this perspective to the masses.
Yeah, that's
right?
exactly what we need right now.
Mm-hmm.
Awareness is still, key at this stage in the game, really. So yeah, I think these types of shows moving forward are going to continue to be incredibly important. Because as you said earlier, people are suffering from this mass formation psychosis, this hypnosis, essentially. And that's really what it's going to take, is for enough people to take that stand, start speaking out, being vocal, and taking that brave stance, like you are, and not just you, but those truckers, who are,
Yeah, this is all about the truckers. Like, honest to God, God's behind this.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. Like, guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
The big guy upstairs is behind this all.
I agree.
Because I've been praying hard, saying, God, man, you got to show up. Like, we need you. Like, you got to show up. You got to lead the way. And so,
well, God's hand has always been involved in any kind of mass movement of people. When you look back in history, and we are indeed in a spiritual warfare right now, when they're going after the churches, when they're telling pastors they can't let their congregation in unless they're vaxxed. And, it's not only a spiritual war. Yep.
Did you hear Arthur got arrested yesterday?
I did.
2 days
What
ago
is that,
again?
the fourth or fifth time?
It's like,
I mean,
It's unbelievable. Like, really,
really is.
like the insanity of all of this is like, I've never seen anything like this before.
I know, and I like it to an information war as well. I've
Yeah.
often said this is the third world war, and it's largely being run in a stealthy way. You know, it's an information war.
Yeah, but it's being fought in the metaverse, right? It's being fought here. It's being fought here.
Yes.
Right.
Well, you see, they learned their lesson from the days of Hitler, where they tried to just take it by brute force, you know, and they learned the people always fight back. They always resist. That doesn't work. So they have applied a stealthy approach by taking over the education, the media, some of the medical institutions, and basically conditioning people to believe that this is what's good for them.
Well, and where did all the scientists end up after Germany? In America.
Yeah.
Right. So,
and it was, you know,
like I said, this has been planned for decades.
Yes.
Decades.
You could take it back to the Rockefeller, you know, Rockefeller's joining up with IG Farben and the Germans and taking over the medical institutions and putting the Rockefellers on the board of all the people in the medical universities. And
the slow drip of globalism, right? The slow drip.
Yeah.
But there's some hope.
Exactly.
Right? Because you can't play 5D chess by yourself.
Good point.
So there is a group that we don't even know about on our side, right? And they're a little less egotistical, right? They're more on the compassion. So what we're seeing is we're seeing them drop little crumbs all over the place, right? And who's the head of that? I have no idea. I know that they're there, though. I know that they're there because I can see it. I can see it. I can see the crumbs. Right? So that's what's happening. Right?
Well, there's bound to be good people on the inside who are going to see things they don't like and are going to expose it. And that's going to trickle on out into society. You know, and that's probably what we're starting to see, really. Yeah.
So yeah. Well, I know who the big leader is. God's the leader of that group.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
He's the leader, you know. So
well,
yeah. So
I guess,
you know, there is lots of hope. Like, there is so much hope, and what we're seeing today, you know, my heart is full, right?
Yeah.
My heart is full for the first time in 2 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I have hope and
that's great.
Just love my fellow Canadians. And
exactly. And perhaps God is showing us some of the things we need to get back into focusing on.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the reason why this happened, was we were going in the complete wrong, wrong direction, right? And you know, when you're alone and locked up, what do you get the opportunity to do? Well, you get the opportunity to self-reflect, right? You get an opportunity to think, right? And believe me, I've had lots of time to think, and about what's really important, right? And what are the things that I miss the most? I miss community, right? I miss my people, right? My group of people, and I miss traveling and speaking and helping people, and all of those things, and I think people, because we put so much emphasis on acquiring things that we forgot about relationship, right? And there's that old saying, he who has the most toys when he dies still dies, you know what I mean? And it's about legacy, it's about did you leave the world a better place than when you came into it, right? That's really, really important, right? And I think this has given us some perspective as to what really matters. I don't need excess. I just need sustainability. And the world is full of abundance, right? There should be no homeless people. There should be no sickness. There should be no, right? And I think when we do win this battle, and we will win this battle, that all of those things will appear again, and we will become, a great, incredible place to be.
Well said. Well, I think history is going to look back on this particular weekend as being one of those times, one of those cruxes in the road where free humanity decided to be just that, free. And I really hope it continues to go in that direction with these truckers. Theo, I feel I could talk to you all day long about this stuff. Perhaps we could do this again sometime. But
absolutely, 100%.
So
love to.
You're going hard on Twitter. That's awesome. Where's the best places for people to follow you online if they want to continue to get your perspective on it?
So the two main ones that I use are Instagram and Facebook, and Twitter. Yeah, I'm not much on Facebook. I'm not much on LinkedIn, but mostly Instagram and Twitter. So
Okay, perfect. Well, I'm going to put links to both of those in the description below, and I want to strongly encourage people to follow you throughout the rest of this and throughout the rest of the trucker convoy. As you said, you're going to be following this closely and perhaps live tweeting and getting a lot of the perspective on the ground out there.
I have tons of people on the ground that are going to be sending me stuff, so I'll just keep pumping it out left, right, and center. So
perfect. That's fantastic. I'm going to be doing the same. I want to encourage people to follow my stuff as well. And again, maybe we can do a follow-up sometime in the future. I feel like we could just go on for hours about this. So
for sure. It's like I said, I'm in it now, and I'm in it for freedom, and I'm in for integrity. Bring compassion back, bring empathy back, bring forgiveness back, right? And when we eventually get out of this, those people that have been under this, hypnotic psychosis state, they're going to need us, right? So don't be angry, try to be compassionate, try to understand, what their side of it, right? Because a lot of them, I really believe they just don't know, because they're in their own trauma right now, right?
They're brainwashed, they're heavily conditioned, they feel they're doing what's best for their children, for their families.
So and we're going to need a mass healing movement right after this, and it's already started, right? It's already started, right? And we just got to keep it going. That's it. Just keep it going and try to stay positive. And we don't need anger in this movement. We don't need anger in this movement. We need the opposite: compassion, empathy, right? Get into your heart space. Get out of your head and get into your heart space, because in your heart space, that's where all the good stuff is.
That's right. We need to win more minds in this information war. And you're right. We have to do that compassionately and with care and love as the goal there. So, once again, I really want to thank you for breaking all this down for us today. This is, again, probably going to go down in history as one of the biggest protests in Canadian history. So it's great to have you on this historical time in Canadian history. So once again, I want to encourage everybody to check out those links, to follow your work. And we'll maybe get a follow-up here a little, maybe in a week or two. And
sounds good.
How all this turned out.
Sounds good. We'll come back and we'll talk about what happened.
Sounds good, man. All right,
brother.
I encourage you to keep up the great work, and we'll talk to you again later.
All right, buddy. Thanks.
Thank you.
Have an awesome day.
You too. We all want truth. The truth will set you free.